Hey there everybody! So today I'm going to show you how to create some of the more difficult dimensions and center lines for part of the activity 7.1 more dimensioning. So this activity was found in activity 7.1 more dimensioning under the unit 7, which is documentation. So by now you should probably have the first few of these done. So this is going to be how to dimension procedure number 5, which looks just like this one, and then how to create this one, which I've called procedure number 6. So this video is for this part right here, and the next video will be for the holes and the circular pattern dimensioning. So taking a quick look at this, it says the grid spacing for this part is 1/4 of an inch. Create a fully dimensioned part drawing to represent the part using the appropriate dimensioning techniques for circles and arcs. Use reference dimensions to indicate multiple occurrences when circles or arcs are repeated. All of the holes are cut completely through the part, so that means that this hole and these two holes right here go completely through. You're going to indicate this by adding the word through, T-H-R-U, after the hole diameter and the dimensions note. So that lets somebody else know if they were to go through and recreate this part that those holes do in fact go all the way through the part. And then you're just going to save the part, and for me you're going to print out that part and the drawing file for that part with all your dimensions on it. Make sure that your name and the title block is correct, and I'll go over that again as well. So let's fire up Inventor here. Okay, and my Inventor looks something like this. You might be able to go to the new file starter box here. We need to make sure that we're finding the Homer title block ddp.idw. You can click on this one here and hit create, or you can use this little arrow right here to go over to your advanced options, find the DDP, and then use that one, just so that way it's consistent for this class. So I'm going to open up this one here, and this little dialog box right here is going to show up. So I'm going to type in my name. The scale for this part, I believe it should be 1:1, but we can change that if necessary. This is revision number 1. And since this is part number 5, I'm going to put sheet number 5 for the series of this activity. Okay. So right here is my title block and my blank drawing sheet. I'm going to use this. I previously went to Google Classroom and I downloaded the part file for this. So I should be able to go to base and find that file that I downloaded. It's 7.1 number 5. So it should look just like this. I'm going to go ahead and hit open. And it's going to place this view right here for my part. I'm just going to go around and click. And notice that it's giving me these dotted lines that show how it's projecting off of the front view of that part. So I'm going to left click to place all of those. When I get good and done, I'm going to right click and hit OK. Or what you can do is change that view right away. So if I'm looking at this right now, this view should be my front view. Okay. And why this view right here should technically be how my front view looks is because it shows the most detail, and it's going to be one of the easier ones to dimension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click right here. I'm going to change my front view by rotating the view cube to show this hole right here. And that'll eliminate some of the hidden lines that show up in my front view as well. Okay. So notice right here we have a lot of different lines. We have a bunch of hidden lines right here. So this hidden line right here is showing basically this line right here. We're going to have hidden lines for the circles on here. We're going to have hidden lines here. So with our circles, we're going to have to show center lines to show that they are in fact round. And those are pretty simple and straightforward to do. I like to start with those just because it's one less kind of detail, and I can work my dimensions around the different center lines and hidden lines and things like that, and it might just help me make a little bit neater appearance to begin with. So first step that I'm going to do is I am going to go to annotate. Okay. And over here in my little symbols panel, I have this cluster of 4 different boxes. So I have center line. This is another center line bisector. This is a center mark, and this creates a centered pattern. So for this one, we're going to kind of stick with these 3 right here. I'm going to show you the quick difference between using the center line and the center line bisector. So the center line bisector you can use in 2D or 3D. So this one's pretty simple. I like this one because I can click on this line right here, and I can click on this line right here, and it automatically places the correct length center line. Okay, so I'll show you that one again. So I can click this line here, and I can click this line here using that center line bisector, and it shows up pretty well. If I wanted to use just the plain center line command, if you look at the image for the center line command, you can see that you have to actually click on 2 like center points. So this one's pretty easy as well. So if I want to create a center line in between this one right here and this one right here, so basically this will allow me to create a center line, okay, that goes through, and you can continue that center line down. I don't need to do that, so I'm just going to right click and hit create. So that will actually cut apart in half. That one doesn't work so well when you have to create a center line and you don't have a perfect center point to work from. So that's why usually I'll just use this one right here, this center line bisector. I'll click here, and I'll click here, here, and here. Okay, and those ones are already pretty good. So as far as my center lines go, that's pretty well taken care of. The other thing that I need to do is if I have a center line somewhere in another view, that means that I have a hole feature that I have to put a center mark in. You can't have a center line over here and no center mark over here, okay, and vice versa. Center marks are super easy to put in. All you have to do is click the center mark button and click a circle. Click the circle, click the circle, okay? You don't necessarily need to do anything to this isometric right here. I might end up changing the orientation so it accurately reflects the front and right side and top views as they appear here. But as far as my center lines go, I put a center line here to show this hole. I put center lines here and here, and I put center lines there. So for center lines, that's a pretty good start. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take a minute here to think about some of the dimensions that I need to put in. So for holes and circles and things like that, I need to make sure that I identify where the center of that hole can be found, because I need to be able to recreate this part. The whole point of dimensioning is so that way we can take this part and we can send somebody the dimensions and they could make it themselves. So first thing that I like to do is I like to dimension all the holes that I have. So obviously this one right here needs to be dimensioned. And then my little dialog box pops up here. I'm just going to hit OK. This one here is going to need to be dimensioned. Hit OK. This radius here is going to need to be dimensioned. And if yours has this circle that kind of goes around it, if you just move your mouse a little bit, you can always place the dimension, even if you have to place it up here. I'm on dimension, so I'm going to hit escape. And you can always tweak this and move it around and see if you can get it a little bit closer to where you need it. So something like that right there would be acceptable. Something else that I'm going to do, I'm going to dimension the arcs in the rest of the circles. So I have a circle right here. I'm just going to place this one right there for right now. I'm going to dimension this right there. Thinking about any of the other ones I have. So those look pretty good for right now. So I'm going to start by making sure that all the dimensions in my front view are where I need to be. I'm going to dimension from here to the center of this circle. And I'm also going to dimension from the center of this circle to the outside right here. And I might need to end up changing some of these dimensions right here also. I'm going to hit escape a couple times. I don't really like where this one's located, so I'm going to just grab the number right here. And I'm going to move this one around. You might have to grab some of the different little bubbles here. I'm just going to move those over there. Remember, when you're creating leader text and leader lines, you do not want these to go straight out, okay, like this. That is not acceptable. That gets a little confusing. It's not part of the ENC standards. You need to make sure that you have your text and you have your leader line, and this little part of your leader line is coming straight out to show that there's kind of a break there and that your text is located there as well. A couple other things that I need to do. I need to dimension where the center of this hole is compared to the outside of the part. I'm also going to show where the width of this is. Make sure that those dotted lines show up. I'm going to dimension how far in the center of this hole is. And from here to here would be acceptable. Okay, and then last but not least, I could do from here to here. Right. And notice right here, I've got a little bit of a mess going on. I might end up cleaning that up in just a minute. You can always do some tweaking, adjust some of my views, move them in a little bit if you're starting to run out of some room. Another one that I need to do, I need to dimension the distance of this line. And I might actually end up dimensioning that line somewhere up in here, but I do need to eventually know this distance right here. So let's hold off on that one for just a moment. Another one that I can do to help free up some space here, I know that this is 0.5 from here to here. I know that this is 1.5 from here to here, so I'm going to basically assume that this is 1, but I'm just going to pop that dimension up over here because that could get a little confusing, because this is actually supposed to indicate where the center of this circle is right here. So if I kind of take a look at this, once again, I don't really like exactly where this radius is coming from. So what I might end up doing, since I haven't exactly followed a particular style, I could alter some of these dimensions. That way I'm not using baseline and chain dimensioning together. So I could actually, I'm probably going to delete this one. Okay. And I am going to dimension from here to here. And I'm actually just going to stick a dimension over here. Okay, so that way I can tell that this goes over to here from this extension line here. They should be equidistant on the inside of those. You don't necessarily have to put that dimension if you put 2 times on this one. So from here, this is the basic beginnings of dimensioning. I'm going to add one more before I forget that one. Add this over here. Okay. You could also add this over here too. That would be perfectly acceptable as well. So either one of those will work. I might even delete that one. So this is kind of like the basics of dimensioning. The activity asks you to go a little bit further. So that's going to be in video number 2 as to how to add those whole notes and some of the other things that the activity asks for. So this is a good point for you to stop, make sure that you have everything caught up to this point.